This week's theme on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast is 5 reasons to retire as early as you can. All this week, I'm talking about reasons why you may want to consider retiring as early as possible. In my own experience working with clients, coupled with research and the popularity of the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early, there are lots of good reasons to retire as early as you can, provided you can afford to do so. Now, while I think it's wise and prudent to make sure you are financially prepared for retirement before you take that leap, many people work well into their retirement years, much longer than they really need to, often for reasons that I would say are unconvincing, because I hear these reasons. Now, there are definitely health benefits to working longer. There are certainly cognitive, mental benefits to working longer as well. In fact, people who work longer tend to also live longer and experience less cognitive decline. But I think the devil is in the details there too, because a lot of times people who retire early, in fact, the number one reason someone retires earlier than they planned is for health reasons. So of course, the people who are working longer are also going to be living longer. But even in retirement, you can stave off health problems and cognitive decline by focusing on healthy habits, staying active, getting the basics right. Good diet, sleep, staying active, not drinking too much, not smoking, focusing on relationships. So if you're thinking about retiring and you've run the numbers and you'll be in good shape financially, I hope that this week's podcast and this theme will give you the permission to retire early if that's what you really want to do. So today I want to talk about one of the primary reasons why I think it's actually a really good choice to retire as early as you can. And I say it in the title, Grandkids, but that's actually most often what I hear from clients is what brings them the most joy with their relationships with other people in retirement. It's getting to spend more time with their grandkids, their kids, be a part of their lives. What I mean by this really is not just grandkids. Like you may not have grandkids, you may never have grandkids, depending on your situation. But the point here is relationships in general. That more than anything else is what matters. I'll talk about this in a minute, but I wanted to start with a story about my mother-in-law. So I had my first child in 2014. She was born in July. Actually, she'll be 10 in just a few weeks here. But my mother-in-law was so excited to have grandchildren and wanted to be actively involved in their lives. And so she made plans to retire from her job around the time that I needed to go back to work from maternity leave. And so for the last 10 years, now fast forward, I have 4 kids and she's getting a little burned out watching them, but she consistently will babysit my kids. She used to do more, but like right now during the summer, she babysits them once a week, usually during the school year. And my grandkids absolutely adore her. They actually live walking distance. They only live like a quarter mile from our house. So my oldest, like on a Sunday, if she's kind of bored, she's like, I want to walk down to Gaga's house. Can I walk down to Gaga's house? So she'll walk down there and spend like 4 hours. And then she'll come back and I'll say to her, I'll be like, well, what'd you and Gaga do? Oh, we just chatted. And then, sometimes they might bake something or do a little craft. But my daughter is very chatty and she will literally sit there and talk with her grandmother for like 4 hours straight and just update her on everything that's going on about life. And her having that relationship with her grandmother just means a lot to me. I never had that with any of my grandparents. The point of this story is that many of you listening, especially the women listening, you want that. You want that relationship with your grandkids where your grandchild wants to hang out with you and spend 4 hours talking to you. But even if you don't have grandkids, the principle remains the same. When we're working, we just don't have as much time to spend with family and friends. It might be hard. You might have someone who graduated high school or college or 8th grade or even kindergarten, and you couldn't attend the graduation maybe because you couldn't get the time off of work. And so that's really a struggle, especially when you get to the point where it's like, I don't have to work anymore. Like, are these sacrifices that I'm making to continue to work, especially when it comes to spending time with the people I care about the most, is that worth it? And relationships, more than anything else, that's what matters. I've talked about this before on the podcast. There's this Harvard study. It's been going on, I think, for like 80 or 90 years now. It's the Harvard study of adult development. And they follow people throughout their entire lives. And it is the longest study ever conducted on human happiness. And the number one insight that they get across generations, so, they've been doing this again for decades. And what they find is that close relationships and social connections, that is what matters most for our well-being, our health, our longevity as we age. And so people with the most robust social connections. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to have like 100 friends, but if you have 3 or 4 or 5 deep, solid relationships in your life between family and friends, people who had these strong social connections, they had lower rates of diabetes, arthritis, cognitive decline. They were healthier, they were happier as they age. So if your work is competing with your relationships and you can afford financially to retire, I would 100% choose relationships over work every single time. I see that with my clients. They tell stories about, visiting family, going on vacation with their grandkids, doing these things, spending time with those they care about the most, and they just exude joy. Working is not always joyful. So again, relationships is greater than work, pretty much across the board. If you can enjoy more years and more memories with the people you love the most, I would say that's a pretty darn good reason to retire as early as you can. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.